Welcome back. Today I'm talking about e-bikes, and not specifically about this one, but about a history that I had, a story I haven't actually told about. I've alluded to it, but I haven't told you about it, so today I'm going to tell you all about it. So before this one, I had this one. So this was my first e-bike. How this came about, I'd been talking to my brother-in-law about the possibility of getting an e-bike, and he suggested that maybe I should look at buying a kit and putting it onto an older bike. Now, I hadn't even considered that, so I did some research, and I discovered that there's a number of places you can buy these kits, but I decided on a company called Mate from Western Australia. And one weekend there, this is going back, oh God, 18 months ago, the kit arrived, and I rocked up to my brother-in-law's place, and we then pulled this bike apart. Oh, that's the other thing. He donated this bike to me. That's a common term called a donor bike in the kit building world. The idea is an old bike that can be then repurposed as an e-bike. So Glenn gave me this. I think he picked it up on eBay for a couple $100. It's a in its time it was an impressive bike. It's a specialised bike, apparently dual suspension, called a stump jumper. As I said, we got up to his place one weekend, and we set about installing the new motor. After looking at a number of different kits that were available, one of the main reasons for buying the Mate kit was that they had they came standard with a few bits and pieces, some standard tools that would help assist in getting the bike apart. And I'm here to tell you that taking the pedals off and taking the crank arms off and even getting the hub out can be a little bit hard, but look, if you're mechanically minded, it was fun. We eventually got it out. The motor slips in brilliantly, not a problem. It just slid in, bolted all up, and even the wiring was impressive. All of the wires are basically numbered or coloured. It's so easy to put together, it's not funny. One other problem, that was another reason why I went to Mate. Because a lot of the kits are designed for, just like with my original, with the Max, the battery comes down through the arch here. But this arch, this triangle area here, was actually not big enough for the standard battery, and that created a problem. But Mate had a solution, and they have what they call the Mighty Brick. It's a smaller battery, but it's 52 volts rather than 48, and they supply a pouch that goes in there, and this just sits in there, and to be honest with you, it gives me the same sort of range I get out of the Max. So it works brilliantly. So on that day we put this together, and my brother-in-law gave it their first test, as you'll see in this video, and all went well. It was a great bike. But the lessons I learned made me realise that I think eventually I would have to buy a new bike, which is what I did. The reason for that, when you buy an old bike, you've got to consider things like the age of the frame and the components, and in my case I had a number of failures. For starters, I had the derailleur smash up on me one day. I didn't hit anything hard, but it was obviously fragile and it just disintegrated. Have a look at the picture. So that created a problem in that Specialized no longer have derailleurs for this bike. So I had to hunt around, and eventually I found a Shimano unit that sort of fits and works. And that was fine, so we got that going. And then another day I was out riding and got a hell of a fright because the rear suspension completely collapsed on me. If you have a look at these pictures, you'll see just how it literally was obviously fatigue. The rear bracket had just broken away. So that created another problem. That basically meant that this bike was out of service because there were no spare parts. I approached this company and forget it. I mean, this bike is 15 years old. I eventually played around and I thought I'll turn it into a hardtail for the moment until I can come up with a solution for the rear suspension. And look, it looks ungainly, but it works and it's solid. But it was about that time that I made the decision that I think maybe I should get a new bike, and that's what I did when I bought the Max. If you had a more modern frame bike, I think it's a good, less expensive way of getting into e-bikes, and it's fun, especially if you're mechanically minded. The motor was a BBSD, I think, or SH 1000. It's 1000 kilowatts. And I think that kit, if I remember correctly, cost me back then about $1,600. I think they've come down. I think you'll find they're around the $1,200 mark now. So you think about it, $1,200. So if you were to pick up a bike that was a few $100, more modern one, I would suggest, and put it on, you know, that's you could easily build an e-bike for a couple of $1,000s. So. Oh, and the other thing, the monitor that comes with it is the Bafang monitor. It's a really high quality monitor and it works brilliantly. So there you go. The moral of the story is that there's more than one way to get into e-bikes, and this is another way. So I hope this has been of some help to you. If any questions, just let me know and I'll see if I can answer them. Thank you.